Stand by for broadcast.
You're listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations.
Hello, I'm Squadron Leader Peter Lisney, and in this episode we look at air and space combat power.
You're welcome to a new world where the Royal Air Force stations are no longer immune from air attack. It was a very interesting evening when the drone hit Cyprus and all of the discussions that have happened since.
We are a warplane, so we can carry up to 5 torpedoes in our weapons bay, and here up on the wings we have our 4 hardpoints for carrying the Harpoon anti-ship missile.
Any chance I get to gloat basically about this job, I absolutely do. I think it's an absolute cracking job. You fly all around the world, you see some amazing places, you take some crazy things here, there and everywhere, and yeah, I just think it's brilliant.
Also, in this episode, we'll reheat a few stories just in case you missed them, and we'll be finding out who is under the hat this week.
Best location you've served.
The BBC Outside Broadcast Unit, covering major London flypasts.
Find out who is under the hat at the end of this episode. Now, hosted this year by RAF Brize Norton, the Air and Space Combat Power Visit, or ASCPV, gave guests from all branches of the UK's armed forces, British government and military allies and partners globally an insight to how the RAF operates. A sort of cross between an exhibition, air show and a conference, guests divided into groups and followed a tight programme of presentations, stopping only to experience the morale-boosting capability of No. 3 Mobile Catering Squadron. Before we meet some of the people running the stands and hearing their presentations, in part 1 of this 2-part feature, take a seat for the opening address by the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Sir Harv Smith.
Thank you very much for making the effort to come across to Brize Norton today. As was said, today is about engagement, and it's about you asking all the questions that you've got of the experts that we've brought together here at Brize. What you might see is, those of you that may have been to an event like this before, you'll not see as much of a footprint as we've had in the past, because if you're following the news, which I'm sure most of you are, we're slightly busy at the moment, downrange doing some up stuff. Definitely an era of radical uncertainty and becoming even more uncertain. Last year, we flew over 4,500 combat sorties last year. Just our Typhoon force alone flew over 25,000 hours. We're only on contract with BAE. BAE's contracted to enable us to fly 20,000 hours a year with the Typhoon force. So just this idea of having flexibility in your contracts with your industrial partners is really very apparent at the moment, being able to work our way through that at pace. Last year, we took Carrier Strike Group to the Pacific. Firstly, the punch in the teeth of the Carrier Strike Group is the Lightning Force run by the RAF. But more importantly, to get that Carrier Strike Group through the Red Sea was a huge lift from the Air Force to get the group through the Red Sea, and because of the Houthi threat, which at that point was very real, still is. But we put at least another upwards of 1,400 people actually across the region to help support get the carrier group through and back. We flew almost every asset in the frontline infantry to support the group to get it through, including the Reaper. We are a support to the carrier in terms of just logistics support. The C-17 force alone, so based here at RAF Brize Norton, the C-17 force alone flew the equivalent of 9 times around the world, delivering equipment and logistic resupply so that we could get that carrier group into the Pacific and back home. And sometimes we forget about that type of level of support, both the operational support to get through a contested waterway, but also just the logistic support to power project with the carrier. There is a huge commitment from the Royal Air Force to make that happen. Actually, our focus for this year was to try to bring to bring our attention back to the homelands and to try to bring our attention back to the high north and what we would call Regional Plan Northwest, getting stuck into some of those exercises. We already had plans an exercise stroke in-house operation called Agile Warrior, which was my test of the Air Force's ability to do transition to conflict, what we call TTC. When I was previously in the 3-star role, the deputy role in the Air Force, we started a concept called Agile Combat Employment, ACE. Many of you will have heard of the ACE concept. This is the next stage of ACE. This is how do you bring that to life? What does it look like when you actually enact it? So over 20 bases across the length and breadth of the Air Force at the moment are right in the heart of Agile, an exercise called Agile Warrior. And Agile Warrior is forcing every base to have to deal with injects if we were under attack in the homeland. Interestingly, we had a lot of discussion of, are we actually going to run Agile Warrior because of everything that's going on in the real world and the fact that we're being pulled mostly to the Middle East at the moment. After quite a bit of discussion with the Air and Space Commander, we thought, what a better time to test the service when we're already stretched and we're already working hard at up tempo. Now's the time to have a go at stretching the service and just see where the pinch points are. I know it's going to be clunky. It has been a little bit. As ever, the people step up and do a good job of it. What we're trying to get from Agile Warrior is expose all the things that we already know in terms of our lack of enablers, our lack of depth, support and sustainment for projected periods of upset. So it all works swimmingly well when a base like this is working perfectly and you've got sanctuary in the home space and you can just tick along, all the contracts work. But when you can't work on this base anymore because someone put Novichok on the front gate or the runway's been denied, you've got to take the strategic fleet away. How do you make that happen? What are all the continuity plans for the various bases? That's what's been exercised over this last period. And we'll see where that takes us. It's going to be an interesting debrief. This last 2 weeks has seen some of these headlines. And again, just doing little things like off the back of what was an engagement visit for 2 days to Doha, me offering to the Qatari chief, shall we just send 12 jets here? Tensions feel like they're bubbling a bit. Maybe we'll just bring 12 squadron in and bring in 4 Typhoons, which we did, then we kept. And guess what? They've ended up forming the bedrock of what we've been doing to help our Qatari partners defend. We've bolstered that now with another 4. There's a full squadron of Typhoons now in Qatar. And they're not just defending Doha, but also UAE, Bahrain, and all the way out to Jordan. So it's become a much broader regional commitment. I would just say that the work being done from this base, and again, you may want to talk to the teams about this as you go around today, but the work being done at this base has just been exceptional in terms of really fast enablement. You're welcome to a new world where the Royal Air Force stations are no longer immune from air attack. It was a very interesting evening when the drone hit Cyprus and all of the discussions that have happened since. I would just say a year ago when I was in a previous role, we were talking about actually the threat to Cyprus from the Houthis, because the Houthis had proven that they could get a long-range drone all the way from Yemen up through Africa and across the Med into Tel Aviv. And my argument at that point was, we're exposed to the threat from the Houthis at Cyprus, and we need to do something about that. So we actually had already done quite a bit of work at Cyprus to just get the right foundation and footprint in to do air defense of Cyprus. Obviously, that's now bolstered, and we continue to bolster it. It would be remiss of me, much as the headlines are Typhoon shooting down things, F-35 shooting down things, I would just say our RAF regiment are kicking ass in the counter-UAS game, and they're doing incredibly well, particularly forward in the Middle East. I also would touch on space, and I know I see the space stand over there. You'll talk to the space team today. Sometimes forgotten because a lot of this is out of sight, out of mind. What the space what our Space Command and our space experts have been doing have been nothing short of just exceptional. Every single launch that's coming out of Iran at the moment is being tracked from launch, and whilst in flight, very, very accurate predictions of where that thing's going, and very quick decision making around should we or shouldn't we actually engage it. So if there's a rocket inbound, but we know it's going to land in open desert, we don't want to waste very expensive interceptors on it. So that quick flow of information and very, very accurate tracking, which starts with space capability, has just proven to be incredibly good. There are other capabilities that we're fielding at the moment through the lens of space control, which unfortunately we can't talk about here because of the classification. I would just say that in the last 6 months, the requirement for our space control capability has gone up by 1,200%. And the team is working their backside off to deliver that, but doing incredibly well. And of course, I've touched on Agile Warrior. I'll not necessarily unpick that more here, but you can see just some of the stuff that's going on across the breadth of the service. I was very keen to keep this going. I think it has been a good test for us in terms of just how tautly stretched are we. I've been very, very impressed and incredibly happy with the performance. And I'll just finish with this idea of an Air Force that's more air, more agile, more integrated, more ready. I would just say, and I would say this obviously as the chief, but I think we're proving that at the moment, particularly in terms of how we've responded to the challenge in the Middle East. Some of the big takeaways we've touched on already here around integrated air and missile defense, lots more to be done on that. The need for control of the air, we must be careful not to take control of the air for granted, which we have done for many years. We've just expected that it's a thing that will be there for us when we arrive in the conflict. And actually control of the air has to be fought for and it has to be maintained. And we're seeing that more and more, most definitely playing out in the Persian Gulf at the moment. And the last point I would just bring up is around AI and autonomy. Yesterday, so our Prime Minister has now hired a lady to be his AI expert, his senior advisor on AI, and there's a big push from Number 10 for us to do much more and to come up with some flagship programs on AI. This lady, her previous job was one of the lead programmers in OpenAI, and she's been involved with AI as a thing from when it was just a good idea. So she's incredibly talented and eloquent on the topic. We got a 1-hour pitch from her yesterday at the Chiefs of Staff Committee. So all our service chiefs were there with the Chief of Defence. And Jade came and gave this pitch. It was A, one of the best presentations I've ever had, and B, one of the most worrying presentations I've ever had of where AI is taking us. And this idea that we're already beyond the knee in the curve of the exponential rise of what AI can do for us. For example, we're already proving that AI can think and determine in DNA type language, which is something a human brain can't do. And it's just getting better and better as every week goes by. From an Air Force perspective, we're pushing this really hard in terms of where we go with our collaborative combat aircraft, CCAs, fighter jets, robotic fighter jets that can do everything a normal fighter can do, but better. And we're really just on the cusp of nudging into that. And again, that might be a discussion that you want to have whilst you're here this week. I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully that was useful food for thought and a little bit of a skim across the top of everything we're doing. Just to say again, very, very busy in the service. So I apologize if we don't have all the Gucci airplanes and all the equipment you would normally hope to see. Most of it's actually being used for what we bought the stuff for. But please do engage with the team. I've done loads of these combat power visits, and they're always much more successful when you engage and ask the questions. And it's the standard. There is no such thing as a stupid question. So please do ask them. Thank you again for coming. Please do enjoy the next day or two. And please do ask the questions. The team are here and they'll be very excited to talk to you. But thank you all. Thanks.
So I'm Wing Commander Neil. I am from the Joint Force Space Component within UK Space Command. We're the operational arm of the command, delivering operational effects for the integrated force.
And can you give us a bit of a preview of the brief you're about to give?
Yeah, so I'm briefing on the space domain, obviously, talking about the domain itself and the nature of it in terms of the number of objects up there, some of the physical fundamentals of the space domain, but also talking about how we use space, how dependent we are on space, and how the threats are proliferating to take away those capabilities that we're dependent upon.
Now, today we have something like 300 students from the Staff College, all around the OF4 range, OF4, OF5, from all over the globe. What are you hoping that they will take away from your brief?
So hopefully I can demystify space. It's not as heavily classified or highly classified as some people think. There's a lot we can talk about at the official level. Similarly, I would like them to understand that it is real, it's not science fiction, and that it is integrated into operations every day, and that it can make a difference and is indeed making a difference on current global activities.
And how relevant is this to people at home that are not in the military?
So the society is heavily space dependent. About 18% of UK gross domestic product and economic activity is enabled by space. Typically the timing signal from the GPS constellation and satellite communications, but space is inherently there in the background. People just may not recognise how much they're using it.
So you mentioned GPS. What does that mean for UK logistics and your Tesco delivery?
So the Global Positioning System is a US constellation. It provides ubiquitous positioning, navigation and timing, and therefore it is used by logistics companies to keep track of deliveries, to manage their deliveries, and therefore if you take that away, it will slow down or stop that sort of delivery to the supermarket to put groceries on shelves or petrol in the pumps.
Now, from a communication perspective, anyone can look at space. They just go out at night and look upwards into the sky. But how do you get them interested and motivated to take on your messages?
I think when people realise how much they use it, it starts becoming interesting. But space is captivating. Is once you start looking at the satellites that you can see with the naked eye, but certainly when you get a telescope and start doing astronomy or looking at the satellites with higher resolution telescopes or optics, it's enthralling and there's no limit to it. So you can just keep diving down that rabbit hole and getting more and more interested in the little niche areas that interest you personally.
How long have you been involved in Space Command then?
I've been in Space Command since April 2021 when the command was established, but I've been doing space for about 18 years now, and the RAF has been doing space since 1963 when RAF Farlingdales was first declared operational.
And from what you can tell us, what's coming next? What's around the corner?
So hopefully more investment so we can grow our existing on-orbit satellite constellations, invest in ground-based sensors, and keep enhancing and improving our mission systems and, most critically, our workforce.
That's great. We look forward to that. Thank you.
So I'm JP and I'm from number 1 Intelligence, Surveillance, Reconnaissance Wing.
What are you hoping to achieve out of your presentations over the next 24 hours?
Yeah, so with our joint stand with Rivet Joint, who are sharing our stand today, what we're really trying to show is what the RAF I-Star force brings to the party for air operations. And I think so much of that right now is about targeting. So we saw in the defence review things about the digital targeting web, and that's really what 1RSR Wing is trying to point our output towards. So using all the aircraft that the Air Force has, particularly the I-Star aircraft, taking all the good collection that they do, making it to a usable product so that we can go out and effectively strike targets that we need to.
And what a job you have in today's climate, given that it was ISR that started the whole Royal Air Force in the first place.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. You think from fixed biplanes over the trenches of World War I to the sort of exquisite capability we have today. Busy time, clearly, and we've managed to spring ourselves down here for a couple of days just to educate everyone who's come along
but it's a real sort of privilege to be part of the organisation, deliver what we do.
Well, it looks like you're just about to start, so I better let you take your place and we'll listen to what you have to say.
Thank you very much. What we're going to tell you about a little bit today is, rather than just this is intelligence and this is intelligence, we can't tell you anything, is try and point it at an output effectively. So if we take a slide, what we're responsible for is the analysis and PED, processing, exploitation, dissemination of all UK air-derived collection effectively, but also data and information from other sources. A requirement comes in, it all gets built out on lovely spreadsheets, it goes in analytical stovepipes, so FMV, imagery, all source, signals intelligence, lovely flat PDF products get produced, and then some analyst at headquarters has got to bring it all back together, pick out the bits that he thinks is relevant, brief the commander, who then goes, that's not what I wanted, and then they have to turn around and go, that's not what he wanted, can you try again please? What we're trying to move towards is a bit more data centricity and decision advantage, and specifically problem centricity as well. So in theory, here in the middle, we've got a problem. That could be strike a surface-to-air missile system, support an air operation doing thing X, Y, or Z. We put them in these teams here: analytical exploitation team, think setting the battle space, mission support team, supporting an air operation. We point all the analysts at that. The analysts understand the problem, what the output is that's required. We do the fusion at the earliest possible point, and we delivered shared situational awareness and understanding to a C2 agency that can do something with it. 11 group in this situation.
I'm Jake from 31 Squadron and currently at RAF Waddington.
So, Jake, you've just presented here, and just give us a recap of the key message that you want the audience to understand.
I suppose the key message is Protector is just like any other aircraft. It's just that we don't have people sitting in it physically. It's as safe as any other aircraft. It's got just as many flight safety systems, I suppose, as any other aircraft, and we broadcast and speak with air traffic, again, just like any other aircraft would.
And what's your role in the cockpit?
I'm a sensor operator, so I operate the camera and the laser system and sort of act as a secondary pilot, really. Just make sure flight safety is the key takeaway from that.
I'm not even sure if I should have used the word cockpit. Is that a phrase that you use?
Yeah, we tend to use cockpit or...
because it's actually a room, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's an entire room just dedicated to us flying inside. And it's quite strange when you first walk in, really. But it does all the exact same things as an aircraft, just on the ground. It's great.
Now, 31 Squadron, Gold Stars, what a history.
Incredible history. Yeah, going back over 100 years. So, superb. So many people that we've met who used to be on the squadron or have been on the squadron before and come back, and it's superb history to be a part of, really.
And what sort of feedback are you getting from the audience today? So you're speaking to senior officers from all over the globe, pretty much, aren't you?
Yeah, loads of people from everywhere, really. It's quite a surprise. But I think most of it's positive. I think some people before coming here today weren't entirely sure of the whole concept. It's still very much a new thing, despite it operating out in like the Middle East for many years. UK flying is very new and to some people quite scary. But I think we're definitely convincing some people today that it's really, really safe.
So that's the big deal, isn't it? The fact that this aircraft, the pilot, he could be thousands of miles away from the actual aircraft, and you're flying this over Lincolnshire currently. Is that right?
Yeah, over Lincolnshire and operating out of the same sort of area, but it can fly all over the world and have a really, really small delay, which is incredibly impressive. But yeah, it's superb to be a part of, really.
Are there recurring questions from the groups that you've spoken to so far today? Are they asking the same sort of questions?
To be honest, it just tends to be a variety of many different things. There's not one true topic that they're asking about. Some people are just bewildered by the whole thing, and some people have a little bit more knowledge and are going into more in-depth questions. So it keeps us all on our toes, really. Tests our knowledge of the airframe ourselves.
Okay, so how does it sound? How would we know if we can hear Protector in the skies above us?
It just sounds like any other propelled aircraft, to be honest.
So it's just a light aircraft in the sky?
Absolutely, yeah. It's basically a glider with an engine at the back pushing it along. But other than that, there's no real way to tell.
Must be really proud of what you're doing, and you and your colleagues?
Absolutely, yeah. Really proud and really excited for this to really come into its own, and it's the future at the end of the day. So, yeah, really happy.
Thank you very much, Jake.
Thank you. Cheers.
My name's Tom, and I'm one of the flight commanders on Aeromed Squadron.
So, what do you do at the Aeromed Squadron?
Yeah, so we form part of a tactical medical wing. So our essential job is to provide aeromedical evacuation care in the air. So particular to Aeromedical Evacuation Squadron is Strategic Aeromed or Tactical Aeromed. So Tactical Aeromed provides care in the air within the JOA, and Strategic Aeromed provides care in the air from JOA back to definitive care at the Royal Four Hospital at Birmingham.
JOA?
Joint Operational Area, sorry.
That's okay. And Tom, what's your background? What do you do? Where do you fit into the whole picture?
So I'm a nurse by background, so that's the case for most of the clinicians on Aeromed. They're either nurses or medics, and then we augment our teams with GPs or physicians essentially. So we go and do our clinical in the hospitals, various different joint hospital groups, to make sure we keep our clinical skills up, and then we do our sort of Aeromed business on the back of the aircraft as part of our routine business. So there, our two sort of side of us is the doing our business on the aircraft, but there's also the clinical exposure via the hospitals essentially as well.
Are you a critical care nurse then in hospitals?
No, so I'm a generalist nurse, so I sort of specialise in sort of a broad range of patients, but I'm sort of a jack of all trades essentially, a little bit of everything. But we do have our CCAS colleagues with us, so critical care air support team, and they specialise and are all trained in critical care and adjacent medicine subjects. Yeah.
So we've got the Air and Space Combat Power visit. More people are going to come round shortly. You've met lots this morning. What sort of questions are they asking? What are they interested in?
So I think a couple of interesting questions. I think it's mainly about sort of capacity in terms of the patient loads and numbers that we can take. So clearly, given the operational context and what's going on at the moment, both in the Middle East but in Eastern Europe, a lot of the questions are turning to how many patients can we lift, what can our teams manage in terms of patient load, etc. So some of them have been focused on that, and that's a big part of Aeromed Squadron's focus and tactical medical wing more broadly, is how do we go from doing our sort of routine business, which might be anywhere between 4 or 5 patients per team, to increasing that to 10, and multitudes thereof. So that's a big focus at the moment, is how do we do our business but on a larger scale. So that's something that we're really focusing in on at the moment as a squadron, and I'm noticing that is also the focus of a lot of the guys here as well.
With your experience on the squadron, what sort of aeromeds, obviously you can't tell us who, but what sort of conditions have you had to work with?
So that's the good thing about Aeromed. We are sort of, so long as the aircraft can go there, we can go there essentially. So that is sort of our only limiting factor really, and clearly that is a limiting factor. If we can't get through a certain airspace, then we can't get the aircraft there, or if it's non-permissible, then we can't go there. But other than that, essentially, wherever the aircrafts go, we can go, and that means sort of any temperatures, any climate, etc. And that has been a focus of our exercises recently as well, which is sort of my area of part of Aeromed Squadron, is looking at exercises. We've been trying to focus on colder regions, so not just getting our people ready for potential colder climes, but also our kit, how does that withstand the colder temperatures, etc. So yeah, in essence, the people, the kit that we hold as Med is not necessarily the limiting factor. We have our own little challenges, but that we're generally able to deal with. But it's the operational context, which is always a sticky bit. But yeah.
So I'm Sergeant Newton. I'm with 99 Squadron, and I'm an airload master here at Brize Norton.
Now, you've just delivered the brief, and you seem to enjoy that quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Any chance I get to gloat basically about this job, I absolutely do. I think it's an absolute cracking job. You fly all around the world, you see some amazing places, you take some crazy things here, there and everywhere. And yeah, I just think it's brilliant.
So how did you get here? What inspired you to follow this road?
So I was previously a firefighter actually here at Brize Norton as well. I originally joined to do that when I was out in the Falkland Islands, got sent out there for a few months. I managed to swindle myself a flight on the A400, and I got up there, we were flying around, and I got chatting to the loadmaster. I had no idea this job existed. And as soon as he told me about it, he told me what sorts of things he does, and I got back to the fire section later on that night and started my application. Yeah.
I must point out that that was an A400M, and you weren't necessarily all too kind earlier.
Well, no, it's a little bit of competition. Obviously, air mobility, there's always going to be that competition. But I'm extremely happy to be here on the C-17. I think it's there's two ways of going, and either way you'd be happy to go. But yeah, C-17 is definitely the one that I like. Nicer hotels. And
what has been the there must have been a mission that you've flown that, if you could tell us, that you remember?
I would say the most interesting one that I've done, we did a routing into Africa, and we went to a location, and I was asked to basically do a practice NEO, it's called, a practice evacuation. And the MC staff there, a couple of them knew, but most of them didn't really know it was coming, so they got into work or whatever, and then they went, oh, well, it's time to get out of here. And they came to my jet, and I was pre-briefed by the ambassador. He said, I want you to treat this like this is the real thing. So I said, I can do that for you. Absolutely, sir. So the next thing you know, I'm shouting at all of these poor civilians running up this jet, thinking they're all flying. Get them all on board, give them the full military talk, give them a quick safety brief, doors closed, and I turn around and go, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, you can now leave. And that was it.
Oh my goodness. Look, just thinking about getting into this job, you came in as a firefighter originally. What advice have you got for your colleagues that maybe aspire to be aircrew?
Number one, well done, do it, because it is the best job in the world. You've made the right choice, even if you're thinking about it. Number two, just get in the books, learn all the figures, do your speed distance times, go through the processes, you get OUSC, tick that box, focus on your leadership. Don't be scared to do pretend tasks with some of your friends and stuff like that. Start bossing them around and all that good stuff. And do lots of puzzles. That's probably the best thing I can say. There's loads of apps out there nowadays. But your like your typical puzzles where it says you've got, I don't know, 3 oranges and Fred's got 7. How many apples do you have, or whatever it is? Just get you stuck into those, just to start like getting that mental thinking side / that cognitive thinking.
So train your brain.
Train your brain. Exactly that. Exactly that.
What's next for you?
We've got various taskings going on at the moment. The C-17 fleet is extremely busy, so we're all sort of by our phones ready to go at a moment's notice at the moment. I've got a few various routes coming up, and a few of the base trainers, they're called. So we got the pilots, they do all their pilot stuff. But yeah, very, very varied amount of things going on with the C-17s at the moment.
Well, I know anyone that's been flown by you out of a tricky place will be eternally grateful for what you and your pals do.
Fantastic. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm one of the pilots here on the A400 at 70 Squadron here at Brize Norton.
What are some of the messages you're trying to get across?
So I think the main messages we're trying to get across are that this aircraft is both strategic and tactical in terms of moving to main operating base to main operating base, but also in a tactical sense onto semi-prepared strips, taking all manner of cargo and passengers.
And how long have you been doing the job, Andy?
So I've been doing the job just over 4 years or so now on the front line. Yeah, I've been to a number of nice locations and some which I'd probably not choose to go to myself.
So it's not the place to scout for holidays then?
Probably not, no.
We've spoken today to the crew from the C-17, and obviously they're very proud of what they do and their capabilities. If you had to sell the benefits of the A400M over the C-17, what sort of things would you be telling us?
So I think the capability of the A400, the way that we use it in the United Kingdom, is for our semi-prepared landings, our airdrop capabilities, both low and high out para, our CDS and light stores drops that we can do on the aircraft as well, which I believe the C-17 do not do with the UK. Similarly, the capability of it is both strategic and tactical and can switch between the two roles as required when we need it.
But you're all one big team, though.
We are one big team, but the A400 is clearly far superior.
That's what I was looking for. Okay, Andy, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a nice day.
Hi there, I'm Flight Lieutenant Phil. I'm on 120 Squadron based at Royal Air Force Lossiemouth, and I'm a pilot on the P-8 Poseidon, the Royal Air Force's maritime patrol aircraft.
Well, it's amazing. It's great to see the aircraft up close, and perhaps you could take us on a little walk-around tour and tell us some of the key things that you're telling the students.
Absolutely. So we're starting here at the front of the aircraft, and I'm showing you now the radar in the nose. And the idea of this is we can use it out to a wide area to search for surface contacts, whether that's a warship, merchant vessel, or even just a fishing vessel at the higher levels. We can also use it to find submarines that are on the surface, which aids us in prosecuting them later. We also have now, moving backwards along the aircraft, a number of lumps and bumps, which is our electronic support measures, so we can listen out for any radars that might be searching for us, and we can use that as part of our counter detection. Underneath the aircraft, we've got the camera, which we can use to look at activity on board the vessels, pick up pennant numbers and confirm identities. Moving now around the engines, here we have more systems down the back of the aircraft, specifically our weapons bay. As mentioned, we are a warplane, so we can carry up to 5 torpedoes in our weapons bay. And here up on the wings, we have our 4 hardpoints for carrying the Harpoon anti-ship missile.
Tell us about where you're based and what the people around you living there think about what you're doing.
So, based up at Royal Air Force Lossiemouth, it is a privilege to be at the Royal Air Force's most furthest north station. We've got a really good community up there in terms of integration with people who've lived there all their lives, as well as people up there for maybe only a few months for their RAF career. Lots of good feedback about the base, lots of interest, seeing as we have the Typhoons and Poseidons based there already, as well as the Wedgetail, which is going to be coming online soon with 8th Squadron at RAF Lossiemouth.
And as well as your warfighting role, I understand that you also have capability for maritime search and rescue for the civilian fishing fleet and so forth.
That's correct, yes. So we have responsibilities out to a longer range distance than the Coast Guard can achieve. And myself, I've been involved in a couple of rescues out in the mid-Atlantic, where fortunately we have found survivors, made contact, and ensure they get picked up by a vessel and make it home safely. And that's all part of our defence mission. It's not just about warfare. Sometimes it's about doing the right thing and doing what we can with what we have.
Well, it must be reassuring for any mariner out there that they know that you may be in the air looking for them if things go bad.
Exactly, yeah. It's part of the job, and to be cheesy and look at it, it is no ordinary job, and it's just part of the interest and what keeps me flying the P-8 and wanting to be on the front line.
That's great, Phil. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Flight Lieutenant Liam. I'm a flight commander on UK MAMS on 1 Air Mobility Wing.
So UK MAMS, what does that mean?
So it's UK Mobile Air Movement Squadron. So this is the squadron that delivers all equipment and people around the world whenever we need it.
And you're based here at Brize Norton?
I am.
Okay, so what's the best thing about working in UK MAMS that you personally like?
The people are brilliant. The squadron is great. It's got a massive workload, but we always deliver. The people's can-do attitude is fantastic, and the travel opportunities are also quite good.
So for people listening to this who are in not just the Royal Air Force, Royal Navy, Army, how might have they experienced your work?
So when you go places or you need things in places, we're the people that take you there. We're the ones who load the jets, load the people, build the freight before, and then on the far bank also take it off and give it to you, or build it again to return it home.
Yeah, that's the important bit. You're the people that bring us home.
Yeah.
What would you really like them to take away about global enablement?
So it is the word enablement. So it's the importance of understanding of how we get our people and the equipment we need to where we need it, when we need it, and then how to sustain that. So Support Force offers that capability, whether that's supply, movements, or EOD, or something additive manufacturing. Support Force has got such a breadth of professions in it, but what we can do is we can get you there and we can keep you there to make sure that you can do your job.
Okay, well, they should be just coming over in a few moments. Good luck.
Thank you.
So everyone in this horseshoe is part of Global Enablement. What are we? We're a one-star organisation of over 7,000 personnel. We've got a minute to get round to each stand, so if we go round, get your brief, and then anything that's piqued your interest, then you can go back and ask questions afterwards. What we do is exactly what it states in the title, with the enablers that enable air power to project forward, to be able to fly and fight. How do we do that? Got 6 different pillars: communications, logs, med, Air C2, security and force protection. Throughout those pillars, got a number of teams held at readiness who are able to deploy at a moment's notice in crisis to enable air to be UK Defence's first responder. I'll leave it over to the teams to give you a bit of detail and everything. Like I say, save questions to the end and then there'll be a bit of time to cut about afterwards. Thank you so much. I'll hand you over to Medforce to start with. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I work at TAP Medwing. I'm here to talk to you about the Global Readiness Team element of the Global Enablement capability. So Tactical Medical Wing is the home of the RAF Medical Services. It's where all of our capabilities live and deploy from. The Global Readiness Team would be a 2-person team with a senior medic and an environmental health tech. The idea is they would go forward to assess where we might be able to put a role 1, look at the operational patient care pathway, and then look for any environmental considerations. That's pretty much how that works. Have you been out to the C-17 and you've seen all of our stuff? Okay, so that all of those capabilities, my main points for you from them is that they're all scalable, they're all used regularly. All the capabilities that we have at TAP Medwing have deployed in the last few years, so they're current and they're used all the time, but we can use them on any platform that we need to, that the RAF has, okay? It's our day job, and yeah, we could use it on any platform. They're my main points for you. So if you've got questions, please come back after, but it's a real quick overtop from me. Perfect, thank you.
Good afternoon, sirs, ma'am, all. I'm Flight Lieutenant Liam. I'm a flight commander on UK MAMS, which is on 1 Air Mobility Wing. Sorry for the noise, but we'll shout over it, so it'll be fine. So today I'm going to be briefing about Support Force in 1 minute. Support Force sits under Global Enablement in 2 Group. It delivers vital high readiness logistics, engineering, enabling capabilities needed to deploy, sustain and recover operations and exes around the world. It's made up of 2,300 people within 20 different force elements in 21 permanent locations. The force elements range from movements to supply, RAF music services to mountain rescue, EOD to aircraft recovery, which are just beside me here. Support Force is persistently engaged in enabling air activity across the globe, examples including Operations HIMARS, Chessman, and what's going on right now in the BME. For example, the Wildcat that's just been sent. Support Force is also increasing to improve its ability to augment air operations within the UK during transition to conflict. I realise that's a bit of a canter through for 1 minute, but that's all I've got, sorry. It's the blue tent for your next hero.
I'm the representative for the Air C2 Force today. The Air C2 Force, as a force, is made up of 4 requisite squadrons or units. So we've got 19 squadron who provide sort of live operations. We've got 20 squadron who provide our training and also further phase 3 training and professional development. We've got 78 Squadron who are based down at Swanwick, based out of National Air Traffic Services. They provide military air traffic control as well as area radar control, as well as being our resilience unit as well. And then we're backed up by 144 Signals Unit who are based up and down the country, who provide our engineering support. In terms of what the force provides, we are here to provide support to National Homeland Defence, so we conduct ops 24/7, 365, but then also to support NATO in their NATO air policing mission as per the map on the board. In terms of where we are positioned globally or within the world, we have a global reach, so broadly speaking, anywhere that there's air operations occurring, you'll probably have one of the Air C2 Force individuals who'll be deployed there as well. So we have individuals who are deployed to Cyprus, the ongoing defence of obviously British Forces or BIFSI. and also scattered across the Middle East as well. In terms of the stand today, we've got 2 systems running concurrently. So the left-hand side, we've got a system called ASCOT, which is effectively our back-end system, which powers the system on the right, which is BC3. So this is our essentially for command and control system that we'd use in a what we'd call a TOC-L scenario, so Tactical Operations Center Light. So effectively, all the kit that you see here, albeit minus the ground-to-air radios, would effectively be put in the back of a van. We'd be able to be co-located with a mobile radar that would drive up to a location, radiate. We can operate where we need to, down tools, and then bug out quickly. I'm told questions will be at the end, but for those of you who want to come and stop by, please feel free to ask me any other questions. Cool. I'll hand you over to the regiment.
Right, good afternoon. So I'm from 2 County UAS Wing. So our mission on 2 County UAS Wing is air defence for fixed sites against the uncrewed aerial system threat. That threat can come in many forms, from your civilian hobbyist that can pose that basic threat to air security, all the way up to a one-way attack UAS from a nefarious state. We have 3 different main suites that we can use to combat that threat, and we can offer jamming capability to jam the drone. We can obviously offer IP protocol manipulation, so we can take control of the drone and potentially control that drone, all the way up to our kinetic effect, which is the lightweight multi-role missile. We currently have an enduring capability out in Opshada in Iraq. We also do a lot of MACA tastings with UK police forces and other local police across Europe and in the UK for high-profile events such as state visits, high-profile sport events like the Paris Olympics last year, and NATO summits. We do defence engagement as well. We send counter-UAS advisors out across North Africa, the Middle East and Europe to offer that counter-UAS advisory role to governments across those nations. Currently under the wing, we have 2 squadrons that are capable of delivering that counter-UAS capability, as well as our counter-UAS training and standard unit, which offers all our training to our personnel, and our operations evaluation unit as well, which does research and development alongside industry to keep that capability moving forward at quite a fast pace. That is counter-UAS in a nutshell and what we deliver, but please feel free to come back and ask any questions when you have more time later.
All right, Sirs, Marms, part 2 Squadron. 2 Squadron is a parachute-capable force element. So our squadron, its core strength is a DCC capability. So we have the ability to use small weapons up to larger, heavier anti-tank weapons. We also have the ability to use mobility platforms like Foxhound behind me, and also the Jackal. We also are the forefront and in innovation of the small UAS systems that the RAF Regiment provide with our FPV drones, etc. 2 Squadron have been committed to upgrade back for the last 2 years, and basically that's the UK's NATO's Allied Reaction Force. Most recently we've been on Hyperion Storm, which is a validation exercise, and that was testing us on the core components of SOF operations. So special reconnaissance, direct action, and then military assistance. Completing that and getting a tick in the box for validation proves that the RAF Regiment and 2 Squadron alone can provide that readiness and to be able to deploy anywhere on short notice.
Good afternoon, Sirs, Marms from the Airline Integration Squadron at RAF Coningsby. And what we do, we provide joint terminal attack controllers and tactical air control parties on behalf of the RAF and also for joint operations. So what do we do then? We've got 3 main pillars of what we deliver. The first one is our core individual capability, which is the joint terminal attack control piece. And that's essentially a service personnel that deploys forward and acts as the conduit between the air and the ground components. We can push air effects to the ground components to support their mission, or likewise pull effects from ground-based assets to support the air component with their plan and mission as well. The tactical air control party piece, so a pool of JTACs or airline integration SMEs that can provide tactical air control from the ground and advising ground commanders on what air effects can help them with their mission. The third pillar then is working with our sisters within 7 Force Protection Wing, tactical air control, to provide a assault zone management capability where we can provide a survey, recce, control and management of temporary landing zones and FARPs for rotary and fixed wing assets. As you can see, we've got a vast suite of equipment that allows us to do that job, all the way from our tactical
multi-mode radios, providing line of sight and beyond line of sight communications, air-to-ground capability. We have our targeting capability and laser designators, and a number of optics that provide day and night capability for correlation targets and effects with the air component. Broad brush, that's what we deliver. Happy to take any questions, or feel free to come back and we can talk you through the kit in a lot more detail. Other than that, if I can hand you over to the Met guys and they'll talk through what they provide. Thank you.
Flight Lieutenant Gareth of the Mobile Meteorological Unit. So we provide enabling service through providing sort of forward deployed weather services on site to wherever the UK or allies are deployed on operations. The advantage of that being on site, that allows us to be more sort of responsive, provide a more tailored service, and to be fully integrated into the sort of planning and decision-making cycle than if you were relying on the reach back, for example. Primarily we support flight safety, but also you can use the weather to tactical advantage in certain situations. So we are here to support that as well. In terms of equipment, we deploy fairly lightly these days with pretty much what you can see in front of you, a laptop, a screen. We would bring our observing equipment. I don't have any to show you today because it's all in use, but there's a picture of it there. That's obviously used to record what the weather is actually doing right now. And we also use satellite communications to access data. We've got in-house capability, but we can also use whatever's available locally too. We can respond pretty rapidly. We've always got 2 people on 5 days notice to move, 1 person on 10 days notice to move, and the rest of the unit are fully prepped and ready to deploy on a longer time scale as well. We are an RAF reserve unit. There's about 30 people, meteorologists, engineers and technicians, and quite a unique arrangement. In the civilian roles, we are all employees of the Met Office, that's the UK's National Weather Service. So it's the same sort of role that you do in civilian role as you do in uniform, but it allows us to forward project that capability into places where you wouldn't want to send civilian staff. Speaking of which, we have been involved in almost all of the major operations the UK has had involvement with since about the Falklands War in 1982, and actually most recently we are currently staffing the Akrotiri Met Office with the civilian staff having been relocated elsewhere. So the mobile Met unit is on Sers Mouse.
We're here from 90 Signals Unit based up at RAF Leeming. Our unit's primary role is to plan, deploy, sustain and recover information services for global operations in support of the RAF and other areas of defence. I can virtually guarantee if you've deployed with the RAF or alongside them, you've been supported by 90SU in some form or another, either through a tactical communications wing, so personnel on the ground deploying hardware like this, or through our network monitoring and equipment support capability back home at RAF Leeming. What we've got here on display is our high readiness capability. So all the equipment you see here will be deployed by a 2-person team, various ready levels all the way up to 24 hours notice to move. This service will provide you with official, secret and NATO secret access, as well as a variety of reach back bearers, military SATCOM, commercial SATCOM, SIM card routers, ground to air communications, VTC capability, all at high readiness.
It's number 1 Tactical Police and Security Squadron. Today also we have with us the Military Working Dogs Operational Capability Unit. Obviously they're your reward for listening to me, so eyes on me first and you can go and play with the dog. So what do we do? We're the sort of VHR element of the RAF Police, meaning that we can deploy rapidly. At the minute we look at about 3 hours notice to effect, so getting to the airhead and then moving off into location as such. Capabilities that we do, air transport security, so what you see here at Brize Norton, we've taken on UK at site, but then also as well we do the overseas air transport security as well, so processing of passengers, freight, and then screening of sort of baggage as well to maintain the integrity of the aircraft and for air safety. Additional to that as well, we do sort of air mobility protection, so being able to deploy dual armed into whichever location, whether it's into a lethal capability or non-lethal, protecting the air asset on the ground as well. Additionally, one of our sort of specialist capabilities that we employ as part of sort of VHR side in support of the Global Enablement Readiness Team and also defence is the support to non-combatant evacuation operations. So being able to bring people back from those locations where they're being displaced through whatever's going on in the world at the time. What that means is that we have individuals on the aircraft, so military aviation protection officers, who will be on the aircraft there to sort of reassure the passengers and also provide protection to the aircraft, the crew, and the passengers as well. As you can imagine, people going out of those locations are coming from like a high threat, high stress environment, might have been displaced by family members. There's a level of threat there that you can't determine. So it's ensuring that the integrity of that aircraft is maintained throughout the whole time there. Additional to that as well, where you're looking at humanitarian aid and disaster relief, we'll deploy people in the MAPO capability and also aviation protection capability to sort of provide that protection as well to the aircraft and assist with any sort of freight screening and things down route, again, to maintain the integrity of the aircraft itself and the security of the actual platform as well.
And I work for Force Protection Experimentation out of the Force Protection Centre at Royal Air Force Honington. So Force Protection Experimentation basically exists to enable the force protection community to conduct experimentation and collect the data metrics required for capability uplifts of the future. Unfortunately, most of our projects are unfunded, and we tend to be beholden to a thing called the lead command model, which sees the force protection community receive 10% of land's capability as part of the dismounted close combat community. So how we get around that then? So we like to innovate. So we like to go out to industry and look for cheap solutions to ongoing issues, and by using commercial sensors, for example, and then kind of networking them into usable systems. We also like to collaborate. So we work closely with Night Signals Unit, Counter UAS, and then within wider defence. So we're linked into the Experimental Trials Group and also MAR works for our Maritime counterparts. So some of the projects that we have on show for you today is Project Cerberus, which is on track to create a fully autonomous UGV that's used in a CBRN environment. Okay, so hopefully reducing the need to commit people into that risk area. You can send one of these. Over this side, we have the Force Protection Planning Tool, and the Force Protection Planning Tool enables commanders to basically red team their deployments before committing any people to it. So you feed it up-to-date J2, so weapon threats, visibility studies, etc., and this will give you a product. It can also be used to map out HLSs, site installation for counter UAS, and things like that. Behind me, we have Project Aegis, which is developing a AI, fully scalable, sensor-agnostic, sense-decide act system. Predominantly for the deployable space, but as I say, it can be scaled up to look at more sort of bigger defence issues.
Next time, in part 2 of our ASCPV feature, you'll hear about everything rotary from Joint Aviation Command. And we'll get into combat air with Typhoon, F-35 and more.
This is Reheat for Inside Air, where we take a look at some of the RAF stories you may have missed. I'm AS1 Chris Keane. F-35B aircraft have deployed from RAF Maritime to RAF Akrotiri to support ongoing defensive air operations with the UK and our allies. It's all part of the RAF's normal approach to positioning aircraft where they are most needed, helping to keep our people and our partners safe. Commanding Officer of 617 Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Mike Carty, said when you combine Typhoon and F-35B, the result is far more potent than either aircraft on its own. 4 Typhoon aircraft have deployed from RAF Coningsby to Qatar in order to bolster the UK's air presence in the Middle East. The aircraft will integrate with the existing UK Typhoon force already in theatre and operate alongside personnel from 12 Squadron and the Qatari Typhoon Squadron. The UK has announced it will urgently provide new air defence missiles and systems worth over £500 million to protect Ukraine from Putin's brutal attacks on energy sites and homes. The move comes as the RAF confirmed it's providing combat helicopter training for Ukrainian pilots to bolster defences against Russian attacks. RAF personnel who served on the recent Pacific deployment of the UK's Carrier Strike Group were honoured alongside Navy crews at a Downing Street reception recently. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and Defence Minister Alistair Cairns welcomed more than 100 military personnel to Number 10 following the return of the crews from Operation Highmast. A replica of the first ever Spitfire will take to the skies across Britain next month to mark the 90th anniversary of its first flight. A 2-seater Supermarine Spitfire bearing the original aircraft's markings will be flying over key airfields and sites with historic connections to the aircraft alongside current RAF jets. The event will also pay tribute to the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight pilot Squadron Leader Mark Long, whilst raising funds for the Mark Long Trust and the RAF Benevolent Fund. And finally, Skeleton Staff Flight Lieutenant Nicole Berger has called on other RAF personnel to chase their dreams after making history at the Milano Cortina Winter Olympics. She finished 25th in the women's skeleton and said, "To represent myself, my country and the RAF at an event like this is something that will stay with me forever." And that was Reheat for Inside Air.
I'm AS1 Ben Russell, and this is Under the Hat, where we get to know an aviator in less than a minute. Name you're known by.
Wing Commander Andy Palsy.
What's your profession?
Boss of number 7644 Public Relations Squadron, a reserve squadron based at RAF Halton.
What's the best thing about your job?
Seeing civilian media professionals thrive in uniform.
Hardest part of your job?
Missing opportunities. We are reservists with other jobs.
Best location you've served?
The BBC Outside Broadcast Unit, covering major London flypasts.
What bit of luxury kit do you never deploy without?
Something I can play audiobooks on. I just love them.
And what's your proudest moment in the RAF?
Commentating during RF 100 at the Cosford Air Show, the RAF's last remaining air show.
That's all for this episode of Inside Air. Please give us a review and subscribe on your favourite podcast app, and join us again soon.
You've been listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations. If you're serving in the RAF and have a story for us, please speak to your unit media and communications officer. Inside Air is written and produced for the Royal Air Force by RAF Media Reserves.